So I'm going to be solving this question. And in this question, there's two football players running towards each other, and we're trying to determine at what time they meet each other. So on the player one, well, let's start with player two. Player two is running at a constant velocity. And because he's running at a constant velocity, I know he's going to cover some distance, and I've decided to call it d. So that means I can create an equation for this player. So v equals d over t. So I know that this is 5.4 is d over t. So I can rearrange that to say that d will be 5.4 times t. So that is my first equation. Pretty straightforward. When I think about my second player is going to be going at a different, is running differently, right? So my second player is going to be, according to the question, is accelerating. So I've already got that there. Starts at rest. And I know the distance they're going to cover is whatever's left. If this guy covers d, this is going to be whatever's left of the 42 meters, which is why I've called it 42 minus d. That means this d and this d mean the same thing, which means I'll be able to substitute one into the other. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use this equation, d equals v1t plus 1/2 at squared. And I'm going to sub in my numbers that I know. I know that he's going to cover 42 minus d, right? v1 is 0 plus half the acceleration, or 2.4, times t squared, right? So no problem. Now what I'll want to do is simplify this, right? Because this is super messy. So I'm going to simplify this and get to 42 minus d equals 0 goes away. Half of 2.4 is 1.2 t squared. So that is my second equation. Now, this d and this d are the same, and this t and this t are the same because they're going to meet at the same time. So I'm going to simply sub equation 1 into equation 2 because those numbers will match. So this d just goes in for there. So I would get 42 minus 5.4 t equals 1.2 t squared. Well, if I rearrange this fella, I get a quadratic. Hooray, a quadratic. So I get a quadratic, but we know how to deal with quadratics because we've done this in math, right? The fabulous math teachers have taught us how to solve quadratic equations. So once I have my quadratic, I just have to put it into the quadratic formula. This will solve for t. Remember, the equation is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Excellent. So that means I just have to substitute in my numbers. And my numbers are right there, right? I already have my quadratic equation, so I can just put those in. So b would be 5.4 plus or minus the square root of 5.4 squared minus 4 times 1.2 times negative 42, all divided by 2a, 1.2. Now you put this into your calculator and you'll notice you're going to get two answers. My first answer will be 4.1. I only get 2 sig figs, right? 2 sig figs, look at all those numbers. So 4.1 seconds. Or my second answer would be negative 8.6 seconds. Now we know we can never have negative time, so that one's out. I know it can't be this because time doesn't go backwards, it only goes forwards. So that is the time at which it takes for them to meet. Now, if we go back to the top of the question, we have answered part A. Part A should be 5.1 seconds. Part B, how far does each player move? Well, that's easy. I just have to substitute the time in here to find the distance for player 2. The time in here to find the distance for player 1, no problem. And How fast is player one moving when the players collide? I can just use a kinematic equation and player one's information in order to find that. So not so hard.